What happens when one of the most famous women in the world walks onto a live morning television set and completely loses control? In just 38 seconds, a simple question about charity work would spark an on-air meltdown so explosive that security would have to physically escort her out of the studio. This is the story of how Meghan Markle got kicked off this morning after a heated clash with Allison Hammond that nobody saw coming. The studio lights were bright that morning. Allison Hammond sat across from Meghan Markle in the sleek gray chairs of the This Morning set. The cameras were rolling live. Millions of viewers across the country were tuning in for what was supposed to be a friendly chat about humanitarian efforts and new projects. Allison started with a warm smile. She had that natural charisma that made everyone feel comfortable. "Thank you so much for joining us today," she said. "We're so excited to have you here. I want to start by talking about your recent work. You've been involved with several charities over the past year. Can you tell our viewers what drew you to these particular organizations?" Meghan shifted in her seat. Her expression was tight. "Well, Allison, I think what drew me is something most people wouldn't understand. When you've lived the life I've lived, when you've experienced what I've experienced, you develop a deeper sense of awareness about suffering." Allison nodded, keeping her smile genuine. "Absolutely. And these organizations do wonderful work. I was reading about the one focused on clean water access. That must be incredibly rewarding to support." But Meghan interrupted. "You know what's interesting, Allison? People always want to focus on the surface level things. Clean water, yes. But do they understand the complexity of what I bring to these causes? Do they understand the sacrifice?" There was a slight pause. Allison maintained her composure. "I think our viewers would love to hear more about that. What kind of sacrifices are you referring to?" Meghan leaned forward. "The sacrifice of privacy. The sacrifice of peace. Every time I lend my name to something, I'm opening myself up to scrutiny, to attacks, to people who will never understand what it's like to be in my position." Allison kept her tone light and encouraging. "I can only imagine that must be challenging. But the work itself, helping people get access to clean water, that must make it worthwhile." "That's exactly what I mean," Meghan said, her voice rising slightly. "People like you reduce everything to these simple narratives. It's not about water. It's about using my platform, my influence, my unique perspective to create change that others simply cannot create." The atmosphere in the studio shifted. Allison's producer was watching from behind the cameras, sensing tension but hoping it would settle. Allison remained professional. "I don't think I'm reducing anything. I'm just asking about the actual work these charities do, and how you're involved. Our viewers want to know the details." Meghan's jaw tightened. "Your viewers. Let's talk about your viewers for a moment. Do they know what it's like to have the entire world watching your every move? Do they understand the pressure of being a global icon?" Allison laughed gently, trying to diffuse the tension. "Well, I think many people face different kinds of pressure in their own lives. Everyone has their own struggles." "Are you seriously comparing regular people's problems to mine?" Meghan's voice was sharp now. The smile faded from Allison's face, replaced by genuine surprise. "I'm not comparing anything. I'm simply saying that everyone faces challenges. Different challenges, but challenges nonetheless." Meghan shook her head. "This is unbelievable. I came here thinking I would have an intelligent conversation with someone who understood nuance. Instead, I'm getting these basic questions about water projects like I'm some kind of spokesperson reading from a script." Allison took a breath. Her professionalism was being tested, but she remained calm. "Meghan, I've asked you a straightforward question about your charity work. That's what we scheduled this interview to discuss. If you'd like to talk about something else, we can do that." "You don't get to tell me what we're discussing," Meghan snapped. "I'm the guest here. I'm the one doing you a favor by appearing on your show." The crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. This was escalating quickly. Allison sat up straighter. With respect, this is a conversation. Both of us are participating, and I don't think either of us is doing the other a favor. We're both here to have a discussion. Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it. A discussion? You're asking me kindergarten questions about charities. Where's the depth? Where's the real journalism? Allison's patience was remarkable. I'm asking you about work you've publicly associated yourself with. If the questions seem basic, it's because I'm trying to help our viewers understand what these organizations do and how you're helping them. That's what interviews are for. Don't patronize me, Allison. Meghan's face was flushed now. I know what interviews are for. I've done hundreds of them, more than you could ever imagine. And I know when someone is trying to make me look bad. Allison's eyes widened. Make you look bad? I've asked you about charity work. How is that making you look bad? Your tone, Meghan said. Your questions. The way you're sitting there, acting like you're better than me. Allison shook her head slowly. I'm not acting like anything. I'm sitting here trying to conduct an interview while you're accusing me of things that aren't happening. There it is again, Meghan said, that condescending attitude. You television people are all the same. You pretend to be nice, but really, you're just waiting for someone to slip up so you can create a scandal. Allison's voice remained steady, but there was steel in it now. I've been nothing but respectful to you from the moment you sat down. I've asked reasonable questions about topics you agreed to discuss. If you're uncomfortable with that, perhaps we should take a break. I don't need a break, Meghan said. What I need is for you to show me the respect I deserve. Do you know who I am? Do you understand what I've accomplished? I'm aware of your background, yes, Allison said carefully. But that doesn't change the fact that we're here to have a conversation, and conversations require mutual respect. Meghan stood up suddenly. Her microphone pack shifted, creating a rustling sound. Mutual respect? You haven't shown me any respect since I walked in here. These questions are beneath me. This entire interview is beneath me. Allison remained seated, looking up at her guest with a mixture of concern and disbelief. Meghan, please sit down. Let's talk about this. I'm done talking, Meghan said. I'm done with this charade. I came here to discuss important issues, and instead I'm being interrogated by someone who clearly has an agenda. An agenda? Allison finally stood as well, her voice stronger now. My agenda was to have a nice chat about charity work. That's it. You're the one who turned this into something else. Because you pushed me to, Meghan shot back, with your smug questions and your fake smile. Allison took a deep breath. The cameras were still rolling. The producers were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial. My smile is not fake. My questions were not smug. And I think everyone watching can see that. Everyone watching? Meghan repeated mockingly. You think hiding behind your audience makes you right? These people don't understand the first thing about my life. Then help them understand, Allison said. That's what you're here for. Instead, you're attacking me for doing my job. Meghan pointed a finger at Allison. Your job is to make people like me look good, to give us a platform to share our message, not to undermine us with petty questions. Allison's composure finally cracked slightly. My job is to ask questions and have honest conversations. I'm not here to make anyone look good or bad. You're doing that all by yourself right now. How dare you, Meghan said. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm speaking to you like a person, Allison replied. The same way I speak to every guest who sits in that chair. You're not special just because you think you are. The studio went very quiet. Everyone could feel that something had shifted irreversibly. Meghan's face went pale, then red. I am special. I am significant. I have influence and power that you could never comprehend, and I will not stand here and be disrespected by a daytime television host. Allison crossed her arms. Then leave. Nobody's forcing you to stay. Oh, I'm leaving, Meghan said. She reached for her microphone pack, fumbling. with the clip. But not before I tell you exactly what I think of you and this pathetic excuse for a show. I don't think that's necessary, Allison said quietly. Of course you don't, Meghan said. You don't think anything is necessary except protecting your own mediocre career. Do you know how many shows wanted me? How many real journalists would kill to have this opportunity? And I wasted it on you. Allison's voice was calm but firm. If that's how you feel, then yes, it's probably best that you leave. I'm not leaving because you told me to, Meghan said. I'm leaving because I have standards. Unlike this show. Unlike you. The floor manager appeared at the edge of the set, unsure whether to intervene. Allison noticed and gave a small nod. Is there a problem here? The floor manager asked carefully. Yes, Meghan said. The problem is that I'm being treated like garbage on live television. That's not true, Allison said to the floor manager. We've been having a conversation that became difficult. I think it's best if we end the interview here. Don't you dare spin this, Meghan said. Don't you dare make it sound like this was mutual. You attacked me. You came after me with hostile questions. The floor manager looked between them. Perhaps we should go to commercial and sort this out. There's nothing to sort out, Meghan said. I'm done. Get me out of here. We can escort you to the green room, the floor manager offered. I don't want to go to the green room, Meghan said. I want to leave this building. I want to get as far away from this disaster as possible. Allison stood with her arms still crossed, watching silently now. There was sadness in her eyes, but also resignation. Fine, the floor manager said. I'll have security meet you at the exit. Security? Meghan's voice went up an octave. You're treating me like a criminal now? Standard procedure when a guest leaves mid-interview, the floor manager explained. They'll just escort you out safely. This is outrageous, Meghan said. This is absolutely outrageous. You people are unbelievable. She ripped off her microphone pack completely now, dropping it on the chair. The sound of it hitting the leather echoed through the silent studio. I hope you're happy, Allison, Meghan said. I hope you're proud of yourself. Allison finally spoke again. I'm not happy about any of this. I wanted to have a good conversation with you. I'm sorry it didn't work out that way. Save your apologies, Meghan said. They mean nothing. You mean nothing. She turned and started walking off the set. The cameras followed her movement. The crew watched in stunned silence. Wait, one of the producers called out. You need someone to show you the way out. I'll find my own way out, Meghan called back without turning around. But she couldn't. The studio layout was complicated, and within seconds, she was standing in front of a wall, looking confused about which door to take. A production assistant hurried over. This way, she said gently, gesturing toward the correct exit. Meghan followed without thanking her. Her heels clicked loudly on the floor. Everyone watched her go. 2 security guards appeared and flanked her as she walked down the corridor. She didn't acknowledge them. Her face was set in an expression of fury and humiliation. Back on the set, Allison stood alone. The cameras were still on her. She looked directly at the main camera and spoke to the viewers. Well, she said, her voice shaky but controlled. That was unexpected. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the rest of the show. She sat back down in her chair. Her hands were trembling slightly. A makeup artist rushed over to check her appearance before they went to commercial. Are you okay? The makeup artist whispered. Allison nodded. I'm fine. Just give me a minute. The director's voice came through the earpiece. 30 seconds until commercial break ends. Allison took a deep breath. She straightened her shoulders. The professional mask came back over her face. 10 seconds, the director said. Allison looked at the camera. When the red light came on, she was smiling again. It was a real smile this time, though. Not forced. It was the smile of someone who knew they had handled a difficult situation with grace. Welcome back, she said to the viewers. What a morning we're having. Now, let's move on to our next segment. Meanwhile, Meghan was being led through the building's back corridors. She was on her phone now, furiously typing messages. Her publicist was probably getting an earful. The security guards brought her to a private exit where a car was waiting. They opened the door for her. "Have a good day," one of them said politely. Meghan got in the car without responding. The door closed. The car pulled away from the building. Inside the studio, the show continued. Allison interviewed a chef about healthy eating. She laughed with a comedian about their new tour. She read viewer emails about gardening tips. She was the ultimate professional. The previous segment might as well have been a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. It had happened. Millions of people had watched it happen live. The viewers at home were already talking about it on social media. The clips were being shared. The commentary was pouring in. Most people were on Allison's side. They had seen her remain calm and respectful while being attacked. They had seen her try repeatedly to de-escalate the situation. They had seen Meghan lose control over nothing. They had seen her reveal a side of herself that contradicted the image she tried to project. Back at the studio, during another commercial break, Allison's producer came over to check on her. "That was handled brilliantly," the producer said. "You kept your cool the entire time?" Allison smiled tiredly. "I just asked about charity work. I still don't understand what happened." "She happened," the producer said. "Some people can't handle normal conversations. They need everything to be about them, to center them, to validate them constantly." "I feel bad for her," Allison admitted. "That kind of reaction comes from somewhere painful." "You're too kind," the producer said. "She was awful to you." "She was," Allison agreed, "but I still feel bad." That was the difference between them. Allison could be attacked and still find empathy. Meghan could be treated with respect and still find offense. The show ended an hour later. Allison thanked the viewers for watching. She promised to be back tomorrow with more guests and more fun. When the cameras turned off, she finally let herself relax. Her shoulders sagged. She closed her eyes for a moment. "You need anything?" her assistant asked. "Just some tea," Allison said, "and maybe a quiet moment." She got both. In her dressing room, she sat with her cup of tea and thought about what had happened. She hadn't done anything wrong. She knew that. Everyone knew that. But it still felt strange. The whole interaction had been so surreal. She thought about Meghan, probably in a car somewhere, still angry, still convinced she had been wronged. Allison shook her head. Some people were just like that. They created their own reality where they were always the victim, always the one being persecuted, always the one who deserved more. It was exhausting to watch. It must be even more exhausting to live. Allison finished her tea. She stood up and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired, but she looked okay. Tomorrow would be a new day. A new show, new guests, and hopefully no more drama. She smiled at her reflection. She had handled it well. She had been professional, kind, and firm when necessary. That was all anyone could ask for. In the corridor outside, staff members were still talking about what had happened. The consensus was universal. Allison had been amazing. Meghan had been unhinged. "Did you see her face when Allison wouldn't back down?" one cameraman said. "I thought she was going to throw something," another replied. "Allison is a saint for staying that calm," a production assistant added. They were right. It took a special kind of person to remain composed under that kind of attack. Allison was that kind of person. The building slowly emptied as the workday ended. People went home with a story to tell. They had witnessed something unprecedented, a global celebrity having a complete meltdown on live television over absolutely nothing. And through it all, Allison Hammond had shown the world what real class looked like. She had asked simple questions. She had been respectful. She had tried to de-escalate when things got heated. And when faced with insults and attacks, She had stood her ground without losing her composure. That was the mark of a true professional. That was the mark of someone who understood that the show was bigger than any one person's ego. Meghan had failed to understand that. She had made it all about herself, about her feelings, about her perceived slights. And in doing so, she had revealed exactly who she was. Not the humanitarian she claimed to be, not the thoughtful advocate for change, but someone who couldn't handle a basic conversation without making it a confrontation. Someone who saw enemies where there were none. Someone who demanded special treatment and threw tantrums when she didn't get it. The viewers had seen it. They would remember it. And they would remember Allison too. The host who remained dignified when dignity was hard to maintain. The host who showed kindness even when kindness wasn't returned. The host who did her job with grace under pressure. That was the real story. Not the outburst itself, but the contrast between two very different people. One who understood what it meant to be professional, and one who very clearly did not.